Hello. So today we will be talking about how to interact with the customers. You might remember while discussing ideal customer profile, competitive analysis, and value proposition statements, we emphasized upon interaction with the customers before going to offer them something. So this interaction is very important in validating your product market fit within that particular industry and segment. So why is it necessary? Because if you do not interact with your customers before selling your services to them, you will never come across what actual pain point they are having, what actually they are looking for, what are their wants, their dreams, their inspirations or aspirations, and what are their fears or challenges. Until and unless we know these pain points, we are just making hypotheses on our value propositions and our offerings and our sales channels and entire business model canvas. So this is very important for us to interact with our customers before we offer them anything. Now the question arises, in what capacity we can talk to our customers? There could be different ways. Let's have a look on the guidelines document. You can approach your customers for insights with different types of positionings and you can make a conversation. First of all, you can present yourself as a vendor of the services you are just going to propose them in your marketing or sales messages. You can position yourself as a solution provider focusing on their problems rather than just selling a product. Although this is a least considerable positioning because most of the customers do not want to engage in such type of positioning in which they are facilitating you to make your product or your service better. Yes, if you are offering them certain incentives like promotions or discounts or vouchers or coupons, or some reward money, they might be interested to engage with you in a survey. But other than that, usually for startups, they do not have that much time, but you can try your luck. The next positioning may be, as a researcher, you can approach your customer as someone conducting market research to gather industry insights. There could be another positioning that you can become their potential partner. And being a potential partner, you need to know what do they actually do and what is their business challenge for them. So over there, you can frame your discussion around mutual benefits and explore collaboration opportunities. Other than that, you can also conduct a podcast or you can be a content creator and you can invite them to share their industry experiences in a relaxed setting. The last position can be as an industry consultant or advisor. If you are instrumental in your professional services career, you can portray yourself accordingly. You do not need to fake it, but you present yourself as an advisor or consultant and you can invite them as an industry experienced person so that you can gather their insights and get to know their challenges accordingly. So there are some do's and don'ts of customer interviews. Remember, these are going to be qualitative data collection techniques in which you are going to interact with them in an interview setting rather than quantitative surveys, because those quantitative surveys may not give you a detailed overview of your customers' pain points. So there are some do's and don'ts. For instance, the do's are you should start with a very small talk. You need to keep the conversation very much focused on them, not on your product. You should ask open-ended questions that allow them to elaborate. But remember, your questions should revolve around the respective industry and their respective problems. For instance, if you talk about their daily routines or their challenges and they start talking about there is huge traffic outside my office area and I usually get late to my office and your solution doesn't surround with that particular problem, you need to avoid such discussions and try to bring them on certain types of challenges which you may address as a business solution provider. You have to listen very actively and take notes in front of them. It will not only help you in transcribing and summarizing their conversations, but also will present you as a very active listener and you are giving them attention to whatever they are saying. Summarize the key insights to confirm understanding. After a thorough discussion, followed by a single or couple of questions under the same domain, you need to verify whatever you have found so far so that you and your interviewee, the customer, are on the same page and you are understanding whatever they are talking about. And then you should also appreciate their time. There are certain don'ts as well. You don't need to try to sell anything during this conversation. So otherwise, this would look like a cheap sales technique for them, and they will just avoid answering your further questions if you will try selling them something. Despite having a very comfortable zone, you need to be very much generic in exploring their problems and pain points. And even if you know, and even if you know that you can solve some of their problems right now, even then you need to stay quiet on that particular area, because the purpose of your interview is to know to them, not to sell it to them in that setting. Don't interrupt or rush them. If they are just explaining something by themselves and they are trying to explore different things in front of you, they are just elaborating it, try to be patient and listen it to them. Whenever you are sitting in such a setting, at times it is very difficult for an interview conducting body, for an interviewer to hold itself. But you have to be patient. And if you think that this is taking too much of your time and the discussion is misleading, you can politely put up a reminder and softly let them know that we have very limited time and I do value your time. That's why let's get back to the real question and focus ourselves on the real positioning of the interview. So you don't need to ask leading questions and push them toward your solution. But if you need to explore more, just give a few hints for their convenience to respond. Very important message is that you do not ignore their body language, because these are the things which can provide you extra insights other than what they are saying. Don't make assumptions. Whatever they are talking about, you can clarify, you can concisely summarize on the spot and just confirm that is this what they were saying? Do not end with a clear next step. For instance, you committed that I will be conducting a market research and I'll be publishing this research into some journal or blog or anything like that. You have to stay committed on your commitment that you will be acknowledging their name in the publication and you will be giving them due credit against this time and valuable information, whatever they have provided. Similarly, for the podcast, video sharing, or any other setting or any other commitment you have made so far, just to get their insights. So now let's have a look at the customer interview framework. Remember that this framework is designed for an ideal situation. To just give you an example, where we are assuming that a customer is ready to respond to a vendor positioning and providing AWS, Amazon Web Services. So the nature, sequence, and method of questions will vary subject to your position and your situation. If you have adopted to a different positioning, like you are going as a researcher or a podcast host, potential partner or collaborator, the nature of your questions and sequence will vary. So this is just one example for you, and you can drive according to your own position and condition. So you can change the language of the questions depending upon the situation. You can also add or skip questions considering the respondent's behavior. On many occasions, you may want to go deep down to explore more. So over here, we have divided and categorized these questions or interviews in different sections in which you explore their background and demographics, their problem exploration, the existing solutions they are going to have or they are having right now, their impact and motivation, the differentiation and unique positioning, and the next steps and commitment if you are positioning yourself as a potential vendor for their problem solving. So let's have a look how we explore their background and demographics. So first of all, when there is a question, against that, we have tuned a dummy customer's response considering that they are looking for some AWS solutions. And in the last column, you can see a possible outcome as a result of the response of the customer against your question. So, for instance, for the very first question, which is very light and casual, just to know about their routine. So, what's your day to day like? So, over there, you can expect a customer may be responding like, I handle our cloud infrastructure, ensuring everything runs smoothly. Our team manages deployment, optimization, and security. So, over here, what actually you are driving out of this answer. You are actually getting your ICP and understanding the role and industry context of your ideal customer. Then you can talk about their main responsibilities so that you could come across what actually do they do in their businesses. There are managing director, there are CEOs, or there could be CFOs or some operational level worker. So what are their overall responsibilities, and over here again, and you are just here figuring out what are their exact roles and concerns. Then according to AWS, remember this is just an example and you can replace your industry terminologies and parameters according to your situation. So according to an AWS setting, the question is like, what good performance metrics do you keep an eye on? And they talk about, we usually consider like cost per transaction, uptime, response time, and resource utilization efficiency. So over here, you can very well see that this answer is actually helping you out in making your own value proposition for customers like them or your market positioning, while understanding their measurable business outcomes. So when you are trying to make an impact through your value proposition statement, so you can talk about all these performance matrices, which are very much important to them to be considered in their business routines. Over here, the consideration is about the cost per transaction, the uptime, the response time, and resource utilization efficiency. So these are performance matrices for them, assumably, and you can craft your value proposition accordingly. Then you talk about their industry you are in. So in some cases, you already know their industry, so you can skip this question. But otherwise, if you are dealing with a company who can belong to XYZ industry or sector, and you do belong to an IT sector, in that case, you need to explore that your IT or software agency will have to emphasize on certain types of industries for your customers. It could be construction, it could be real estate, it could be manufacturing, it could be e-commerce or something like that. So you can see that each type of question and its relevant answer will give you some clarity about your ICPs, your market positionings, your competitor analysis, the buying behavior, and market positionings. So when you talk about problem exploration, you can simply ask them, what's your biggest headache when it comes to cloud management? So over here, the cloud management is typically used for the AWS services. This is just an example. I must recall this thing. So in your setting, it can be something regarding your own business case. Customer may respond like that AWS cost, downtime risk, and automating processes without breaking anything. So this is actually the pain point identification, that this is their one of the headaches. And you are uncovering their specific struggles and challenges, which you might address in your value proposition statements. Similarly, you can talk about how does inefficient cloud use affect your business growth. So over here, you are actually trying to differentiate yourself from the competitors in the market. And you can see where you could position yourself as compared to your competitors in the market. How do the customers respond to such things? There are a number of questions which you can avoid and you can skip because the customer might have responded you in one single question for number of different other fields. Now this is your smartness, that how do you evaluate this thing on the spot and you do not ask him to repeat his answers. So over there, you have to be very much critical, careful, attentive, and very much courteous to understand what the customer is talking about. If you see that the customer has already responded you for almost 8 to 10 questions concisely and briefly, there is no need to ask those questions which are in your script and you have listed them up and you have listed them down. So you need to avoid such questions which have already been responded or the customer is not interested to respond to them. So even in that case, you can avoid them. Over here in our framework, we have listed down each and every possible question which you can ask, and you can make a good merger or you can make a very good combination of these questions by mixing them with each other. Then we talk about their existing solutions, whatever they are using. Like what other tools or methods have you tried to solve this problem? So over here it says that AWS Cost Explorer, Customer Scripts, and third-party cost analysis tools. So this is actually giving you competitive benchmarking, but there might be a situation that certain customers may be responding like, we are solving it internally and we do not outsource it to someone, or we have teams to do this. So over there, you have to analyze the situation by yourself and suggest a scenario to them that, for instance, you are outsourcing such a solution to some third party. What do you think will be the possibility of outsourcing it? Would you like to go with it? Is there any fear? Are there any risks? What a service provider can offer you to change your decision and outsourcing it from internal teams to the external teams? So over there, you will come across different responses. For instance, they may say, we do not trust external providers, or he may say that actually this is beyond my capacity and I'm not the one to take this decision. So over here, you are actually figuring out who is the key decision maker in their organization. So once you come across this, you might know that how to or whom to approach to sell your services. You might be talking to a departmental head and he or she is just talking about industry insights and challenges, and you are trying to propose something that in order to address such a challenge within your organization, what if you outsource this challenge or this solution to the external parties? How would you evaluate that? At that particular stage, the departmental head proposes, actually, this is not in our capacity, or I am not the one who can take this decision. This is the CEO, or is it some type of board or committee within the organization? They may consider it as a valuable proposed solution from a third party. So in that particular situation, you have now figured out that the industry challenges are being collected through departmental heads who are actually facing the pain. But in order to sell your solution to such customers, you will have to contact certain CEOs or the committee members or some gatekeepers of those committees. So this is your smartness at that time. How do you tune your question and how do you transform yourself accordingly? Because there will be certain situations in which customers will be briefing you about each bit and byte about their problem, their fears, their wants, their demands, and everything, even their cost effectiveness. But when it comes to decision making to outsource a solution, there will be certain challenges and you will have to act according to the situation. Okay. And then it is possible they are already having a vendor or an outsider solution provider for them. In that case, you can talk about what are their likings or dislikings about certain types of vendors. Are they satisfied with their performances? How do they measure their performances? How do they evaluate their benchmarks or anything like that? So at that particular area, You are figuring out the competitive analysis actually, that how your competitors are being liked by your customer organizations and how you can make a switch or how you can take over such customers in the same industry by covering most of the fears of the customers or meeting their desired KPIs and matrices. And then there could be different scenarios in which the organizations or customers earlier used to take some outsider solutions, but then they stopped taking such solutions. And there must be certain reasons behind them. So try to explore such reasons so that you could come across that if the organization was earlier outsourcing such a solution, but now they are not doing that, what are the reasons? How we can overcome and address those challenges, because of what, because of whom we can just now enter the market by becoming their third party solution providers. And you can see number of questions in this area. Again, I would emphasize that the customer may respond you under one question as a very brief answer, and you may not need to repeat all these questions. So when you talk about their impact and motivation, you can talk about how much is this issue costing you, and you see again your value proposition, your pricing, and its return on investment justification is coming through the ideal answer right now. And you can also propose them that, for instance, at your current costing, if a cost is reduced by 30%, how would that change things for you? So over there, certain customers and industries may respond you very flexibly, like, yes, we would like to have this reduced cost, but on the other hand, some of them may respond that we are not bothered with the cost. We can afford it. This is in our budget, so we don't have any issue with that. What is the issue with us? That we need speed, we need reliability, we need trustworthiness, we need confidentiality, we need customer support services, we need wider integrations or anything like that. So over here, you can identify that your customers in that particular group or industries with a certain size are not bothered with the cost. So everywhere you may not be proposing yourself as a cost-effective service provider. So similarly, you can see number of other questions in the impact and motivation. Then comes your differentiation and unique positioning. So if you are positioning yourself as a direct vendor of the same service, which you talked about earlier, in our case, this is AWS service providers. So we can directly ask, how do you see us compared to other AWS service providers? So over here, you can see your competitive positioning again and your unique selling positions. So over there, you can have so many other questions like, what's one thing you wish AWS services did better for you? So over there, they can say that they can provide us more built-in automation for cost saving or performance optimization. So you are just trying to figure out whether you could be a good differentiator or a distinguished value proposition provider or something like that. Then we have some next steps and commitment. Here, if you haven't explored who is the decision maker in their organization, you can specifically and exclusively ask about it, that who else in your company needs to be involved in this decision if you have to outsource this solution to outside. So they can talk about like their CTO, their CFO, DevOps team, or anyone else. So this is actually stakeholder mapping for you, in which you are deciding to whom you have to address in your sales messages, in your sales channels, how you will have to figure out the way to reach out to them. So you see that all these questions, their dummy answers, and the outcome of your PMF area actually is helping you out to know your ideal customer in much better way. So from here, you are driving different things which will be placed in your ideal customer profiles answers sheet, answers column, in which you will be placing a lot of information derived from here as well as from your competitor analysis. So once you have explored at least 8 to 10 customers in the same industry with the same problem, you will be in a much better position to reach out your customers more effectively, more efficiently, while talking about their pain points, offering them a right solution with the right value proposition message. There are much brighter chances that they will be buying your services frequently. Thank you so much.